Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. This almost wasn't going to be an episode of Mingles with Jingles today. I know Monday is Mingles Day, but I actually considered doing another episode of Into the Dead and skipping Mingles with Jingles this week, and then I realised I couldn't do that because I could have done it, but it would have complicated matters. With this being episode 599 of Mingles with Jingles, that means the next one, because, counting is easy, is going to be episode 600. And on the Salt Mine Discord, we decided we were going to do something special for episode 600 and have another live Q&A, a sort of anniversary edition. And if I'd not made Mingles with Jingles today, that would have postponed that yet another week, because there wouldn't have been a 599th episode until... You get the idea. I'm over-explaining it. So anyway, Mingles with Jingles it is. So that, of course, means that next week's Mingles with Jingles, episode 600, is going to be recording on Sunday, the day before, as a live Q&A on Discord. Exactly the same as the monthly Discord live Q&A, which happens on the first Sunday of every month. Not the same. Well, yeah, the same time. Yeah, the same place, but not the same date. You're effectively getting a bonus Q&A this month for the 600th episode of Mingles with Jingles. So that will be 11 a.m. UK time, whatever that is in your time zone, Sunday the 19th of October. That will be recorded and will go up as episode 600 of Mingles with Jingles next week, Monday. Borderlands 4 again as the background of this week's episode of Mingles. I am still enjoying it. I don't think it's still a good game. I also do think that you should absolutely not, despite one performance patch being implemented since the last time I talked about this game, absolutely not be playing this at anything higher than 1080p unless you have an absolute monster of a PC. The performance still sucks. Randy Pitchford's been surprisingly quiet since the game launch, hasn't he? I think Take-Two must have taken his phone away. And about damn time. Anyway, enough about Borderlands 4. It is what it is. This week, I suppose the news is all about Battlefield 6. So it came out on Friday. We just had the launch weekend. I don't care. I really couldn't give a rat's ass about Battlefield 6. Apparently they managed to include a single-player campaign in it that isn't completely shit, which is the first time that's happened in a Battlefield game in... Well, it's just the first time that's happened in a Battlefield game. But I don't care. I'm not really into multiplayer shooters. However, it is apparently pretty good. Although the launch was not without incident. Like I said, this doesn't affect me directly because I'm not playing Battlefield 6. But the launch, on the one hand, it was kind of good. On the other hand, it was still kind of bad. Let me explain. So, Electronic Arts knew exactly how many people were going to be wanting to play the game on launch because 800,000 people pre-ordered it. Now, you all know how I feel about pre-ordering games. Stop doing it. You need to really, really stop encouraging the publishers to take your money in advance of the game launch, because they've got you, and this kind of leads into what was bad about the Battlefield 6 launch, because if they've already got your money, they have no incentive to make the launch experience decent for anybody, because they've already got your money. On the other hand, the pre-orders do let them know exactly how many people are likely to be queuing up and trying the game on the launch weekend. So bearing in mind that they knew that, they have absolutely no excuse to not put on enough servers to ensure that everybody has a smooth launch weekend experience, right? So they made sure there was enough server capacity for everybody on the launch weekend, right? Of course they didn't. No. Although, and again, this is where it gets kind of good, they did put on a lot of servers. They just didn't put on nearly enough for the level of interest that they knew they were going to get. Within 25 minutes of the game going live, Steam was reporting 500,000 concurrent users. Yep, 500,000 concurrent users on Steam alone. And of course, the game features crossplay, so console players were also adding into that. You're probably looking at 1 million people playing Battlefield 6 within half an hour of the game going live on the weekend. Here's where the numbers start to get a bit muddy though, because I don't know for sure exactly what 500,000 concurrent Steam users means, because that could mean 500,000 people online in the game and playing, or it could mean 300,000 people online in the game and playing, and 200,000 people online in the game sitting at an hour-long queue waiting to play. See, I don't know exactly what that means. I suspect it might be the latter. Because there were numerous reports on various different gaming websites, and in most cases the people writing these reports were huffing obscene amounts of copium, saying that, well, it's not that bad, I'm only looking at a queue of 140,000 players ahead of me waiting to get in. Not that bad? Fuck off. That's terrible. Again, because they knew exactly how many people had pre-ordered. So, no excuse. Well, I say no excuse. There is a kind of an excuse, which I'll get into in just a second. Because I want to say there's no excuse for them not putting enough server capacity for the opening weekend. But there kind of is, because, well, yeah, I know, putting servers on is expensive. They did put a lot of servers on. It's one of the smoothest launches of a game of this nature ever. A lot more people were able to get in and play than you usually get on the opening weekend of a game like this. Still not enough, but more than you usually get. And I kind of understand that the reason why they didn't put on enough servers for everybody was because, yes, putting these servers on costs money, it's expensive, and within a week or two of the launch, you don't need all those servers, because there's always a massive spike in player numbers on the weekend of the game launch, and then it starts tailing off to more reasonable numbers. So if there were 1 million people trying to play Battlefield 6 on the launch weekend, by the second weekend that would probably be down to 500,000, and they appear to have the server capacity for 500,000. So, I mean, you know, I want to say they got no excuse for not putting enough servers on, but actually they kind of do, and I can sort of understand. I don't like it, but I understand it. I mean, I don't like it, doesn't bother me. I wasn't trying to play, but you know what I mean. And the game itself seems to work quite well, and by that I mean, you know, you don't need a monster PC to achieve 24 frames per second the way you did in Borderlands 4, and kind of still do. Because unlike, well, the decision that Gearbox took, and honestly, I mean, you're watching Borderlands 4 in the background right now, it doesn't look that much different to, well, it doesn't really look any different to Borderlands 3, and it doesn't look that much different to Borderlands 2, and yet the performance requirements are ridiculous. Because they've gone with Unreal Engine 5 and ray tracing and all kinds of fancy stuff that the game really just doesn't need. But Battlefield 6 went in the other direction. The game doesn't even support ray tracing, let alone require it, because they prioritise performance. And Battlefield 6, it still looks good. In fact, I'd argue that it looks significantly better than Borderlands 4, which did prioritise quality over performance, and managed to miss both of the marks. But Battlefield 6 still looks good, and it prioritised performance and frame rates. It's almost as if that's what actually matters in a first-person shooter. Who could have predicted that? Certainly not Randy Pitchford and Gearbox. But anyway, yeah, not a 100% clean and successful game launch for Battlefield 6, but it's probably the smoothest launch of any game in the Battlefield series. And despite the, 1 hour long sitting in a queue behind 140,000 other players, which they knew was going to happen, because of course they did. Like I said, they had the pre-order numbers, they knew how many people were going to be playing. Instead of just, brushing it all under the carpet, and waiting for everybody to stop complaining, for things to settle down after the launch weekend, Electronic Arts, remember, they're supposed to be Satan. They're giving out compensation. They didn't need to. They didn't have to. They could have just put their fingers in their ears and waited for everybody to shut up after the launch weekend kerfuffle had died down, and then just gotten on with business. But they're actually giving players compensation for sitting in queues for an hour, waiting to get into the game. Electronic Arts. Who are you, and what have you done with the real EA? Over the weekend they said, "Today we experienced an outage on the EA app that prevented some of our players who pre-ordered Battlefield 6 from accessing the game. We know this can be frustrating, so we wanted to offer an apology. With perks. Affected players should have already received 24 in-game experience boosts to use whenever they want, and somewhere down the line they're also going to get free access to Battlefield 6's Season 1 Battle Pass. And anybody who bought or who pre-ordered the premium Phantom edition of the game will get the Season 2 Battle Pass for free as well. Electronic Arts admitting guilt, saying sorry, and giving away free compensation. Very generous free compensation. I mean, I know it doesn't cost them anything, it's all just pixels. Well, actually, giving away free battle passes is going to cost them something. And then going on social media and saying, if you have the EA app, forget it, and just get the game on Steam instead. What reality am I living in right now? Well, anyway, moving on from Battlefield 6, a game that I really don't care about. But, you know, I wish them well. It's about time Battlefield players actually had a decent Battlefield game to play. It's been a long time. But onto a game, or a couple of games, that I might actually give a shit about. A number of you were saying, Jingles, there's a new Alien game out. How come you haven't been talking about it? They're referring to Alien Rogue Incursion. Technically, it isn't really a new game. It came out nearly a year ago. And the reason why I didn't talk about it nearly a year ago when it was released was because it was for VR. PlayStation VR 2, there was a Steam VR version as well. And, well, I mean, you all know my track record with Alien Isolation. And the idea of a VR Alien game that's even more immersive and horrifying, nah, screw that. And yet, it's not really, I mean, it's kind of like a halfway ground between Alien Isolation and Aliens Colonial Marines, because you're armed. So you're crawling around this, I don't even know, it's a abandoned colony, Weyland-Yutani station, whatever. You're crawling around a place that's been overrun by aliens and everybody's been killed, but you have guns. So there's that. But in VR, nope. But the version of the game that everybody's talking about recently is that they've redone the game for not VR, just for regular PC. And it's actually cheaper than the VR version. And I've actually heard of the character that you play in the game. It's a former colonial marine who goes by the name of Zula Hendricks. She was a character in the Dark Horse comics. So I am vaguely familiar with it. And there were a couple, I mean, I do have it now, and I am going to play it. But the reviews, because I was kind of interested in it when it first came out in VR, even though I knew I wasn't going to play it in VR. But the reviews were not bad, but they said that, you know, the gameplay was kind of repetitive because you had a very limited selection of weapons and a very, very limited variety of aliens. It's basically facehuggers, alien warriors, and then an alien queen boss battle at the end. Which is fine. I mean, that's kind of the way it should be. But it does mean that things can get kind of repetitive kind of quickly with like 3 weapons and only 3 enemy types. You know what I mean? And I've been watching gameplay footage. People actually, you know, playing the game. Because, you know, that's what gameplay footage is, obviously. And the weapons seemed all right, with one notable exception. I saw people using a revolver, which is a pretty powerful weapon and did appear to drop the aliens pretty quickly. Same deal with a shotgun. But then it came to the pulse rifle, and they were having to expend like a third of the magazine to drop a single alien warrior with a pulse rifle. And that just, you know, doesn't seem right. So minor balancing issues aside, you've got the whole, you know, with only like 3, possibly 4 weapons, and only 3 different types of enemy, one of which you only see right at the end. Yeah, I'm not expecting great things. It has kind of average reviews, but the biggest issue is that it really ends on there's a bit of a spoiler here, but it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, because what it really should be called is, in fact, what it was originally called, I think, with the VR version, is Alien Rogue Incursion Part 1. It's not complete. It's only half a game. Hopefully, they'll have made enough money selling this non-VR version of the game to finance production of Part 2, because it basically, you've got half a game. I mean, you're paying half a game price as well. It's only £25, and I have actually gone ahead and bought it and downloaded it and installed it, but I haven't played it yet. Because I would like to encourage them to get on with it and finish the game and produce Part 2 at some point. I may or may not do a video series on it. I don't know if it's going to be good enough. You never know. I realise that when it comes to anything from the Alien franchise, because I actually liked Aliens, Colonial Marines, I know it was shit. I'm not trying to say it was good. The story was terrible. And, everybody knows about the technical issues that plagued that game. But I still enjoyed it. And yet I realised that I probably only enjoyed it because I'm such a massive Aliens nerd. It will likely be the same with Alien Rogue Incursion, Part 1. But I'll try to maintain a level head about it, because if I recognise that I can enjoy something even if it's not very good. And if it's not very good, that's not necessarily going to make a decent video series on YouTube. So I'm going to play it, but whether or not I actually do a video series on it, I can't say. Don't expect anything. Maybe, maybe not. But the other thing, because I said there were a couple of other games that I was actually getting mildly excited about, Alien Rogue Incursion being one, which kind of justifies the mildly excited description. But the other one is, I'll tell you what, how can I put this? So there have been a number of Alien games over the years. Some of them very, very good. Alien Isolation, we're looking at you. Some of them very, very bad. Colonial Marines, we're looking at you. One that was on the very good side, but not great because it was kind of short, was Alien Fireteam Elite. Do you guys remember that one? I actually joined Mr. Gibbons, excuse me, and Flambass playing that one live on I wasn't streaming it, but they were, and it was hilarious. It's definitely one of those games that is way, way better if you play it with friends, but you could play it single player. And it featured a 4-campaign, single-player campaign, bunch of chained missions, multiple different Colonial Marine classes that you could play. It did have limited replayability, however, because once you'd gone through the story, the only reason, and there were reasons to go back and play through the story again and again and again and again, not just because that's the only thing that you could do, because, well, you could level up all the weapons, you could level up all of the character classes and unlock new skills and abilities and so on and so on. And there was a sort of infinitely replayable horde mode, but the game was very, very good, but it was kind of hampered by its replayability value. They pushed out some DLC for it, which added an extra campaign. But again, once you'd played through it once, you were resigned to playing through it and again and again and again and again, doing the same thing, just leveling up the new weapons and so on and so on. And it could get pretty boring pretty quickly. Nevertheless, it was a very good game. So why am I going on about Aliens Fireteam Elite? I mean, good game or not, it did have fairly short legs, and it came out 4 years ago. It's been a while. Well, it turns out, let me just check my news source, make sure I'm getting this right. A listing for Aliens Fireteam Elite 2 very briefly appeared on the website for the ESRB. That's the USA's entertainment ratings body. Now, the page has since been taken down, but it gave Fireteam Elite 2 a mature rating for blood and gore, strong language, and violence. So, good. The page also mentioned that it was being published by a different publisher, but whatever, who cares. And it's coming to PC as well as PS5 and all varieties of Xbox. But here's the thing, since games can't really get submitted for rating until they're basically more or less complete, and given that the developers, who have been radio silent since, but 2 years ago did state that they were in full development on a new title and building on the success of Aliens Fireteam Elite. And 2 years sounds like a reasonable development cycle for a game, and you don't submit a game to the ESRB for rating, but you can't submit a game to the ESRB for a rating until it is basically complete and just about ready to be released. All the signs point to a sequel to Fireteam Elite coming out this year. Now, there's only 2 months of this year left, so I know what I'm buying myself for Christmas. Fingers crossed. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Wouldn't be at all surprised to see an actual announcement coming from the publisher or the development team any week now. And on that surprise bombshell, that is it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Don't forget, next week's episode will be another live Q&A celebrating 600 episodes of Mingles with Jingles, which will take place at 11 a.m. UK time, whatever that is in your time zone, Sunday, the 29th. Counting is hard. Sunday, the 19th of October. That will be recorded live and will go out as episode 600 of Mingles with Jingles this time next week. Or maybe not this time, because I don't know what time you're watching this episode of Mingles with Jingles. You get the idea. Monday, the 20th of October, episode 600. Hope you've all enjoyed this one. Hope you've all had a fantastic weekend. And I hope you're getting as excited about some upcoming Aliens games as I am. And they've also announced that they're doing Alien Isolation 2, by the way. Well, that's probably years in development still. And I'm probably going to buy it because, you know, they deserve to succeed, but don't ask me to play it. I mean, I will play it and I will record it, but I can't promise I'm going to finish it. And on that bombshell, that is it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Hope you all enjoyed it. See you next week. Thanks for watching. Take care. And I'll catch you next time.